Hi folks, welcome to the Cannabis Corner. I'm your host, Kerry Burns. You know, in every event that occurs, there's always a winner and there's always a loser. And tonight we're going to discuss the winners and the losers from making cannabis legal. Of course, we've all had to deal with the fact that it's been illegal for nearly 70 years in this country. And the only winners of that deal are the ones that unfortunately have been making all the money off of it being illegal. But tonight we're going to do a comparison on the winners and the losers in a legal cannabis society. First, we're going to start out with the losers, since it's the short list on this. And probably top at this list would be the Drug Enforcement Agency. Once cannabis is legal, the Drug Enforcement Agency is probably going to be trimmed down quite substantially, if not done away with altogether, since about 85% of their work that they do today is in enforcing the cannabis that's coming across from the Mexican border, and also that's grown here in the United States. Unfortunately, the drug enforcement agents that have been so gainfully employed for so long with these know-nothing jobs and chasing and hassling American citizens, they're going to have to go out and get a real job. And so I've put them on the losers list. To me, they've always been on that losers list all along anyway, because they are nothing but a bunch of losers. But they probably will stand to lose the most once cannabis is legal and made legal in this society. The next big loser is going to be the smugglers, the ones that have been making a lot of money on having an illegal price structure. Once cannabis is legal, the price is going to drop down to a fairly reasonable amount, like around $8 or $10 an ounce. And of course, this will be completely do away with the black market pricings of today, which averages around $20 a gram for the more potent varieties. And this is absolutely absurd. Back in the late 60s and early 70s, we were buying those varieties for $6 and $8 an ounce. And the cheaper varieties were, $5, $6 an ounce. So we look for those days to come back, and that's what's going to happen when the cannabis becomes legal in this country. As far as the rest of the list on the losers, probably the ones that are going to lose out are the prison systems and this prison industrial complex that we've built since the war on drugs began. And particularly in the case of marijuana, where they've been sentencing up to over 1 million to 1.5 million people a year and incarcerated in state and federal prisons. These are definitely going to go out the door, and I guess they'll have to make something else illegal, like coffee or maybe Butterfingers or something like that people really like to eat, and that way they can keep these giant prison systems that they built in operation. But unfortunately, they are on the losers list, and to me, they're just like the Drug Enforcement Agency. They've been a loser all along for incarcerating people for a substance that has never sent anybody to the hospital. As far as the winners, well, I think the whole rest of the world are going to be winners, particularly the citizens of the United States. Think of the people that are going to be processing the marijuana and the cannabis and the different jobs that this is going to open up. Let's just start with some of the products that we're going to see come about. Just starting with the seed. The marijuana seed, the plant itself, the seed that came from it, used to make the best varnish that you could use. And to this day, with all of the chemicals that they've put together to make varnishes, none have even touched, they say, the quality of what the seeds produced back in the day when cannabis was legal in this country prior to 1937. So there will be a boon in the paint industry, and also people that will be producing this material. There'll be jobs for them that we aren't seeing today. Another big boost is going to come from the hemp products themselves, the paper, the plywood. I mean, when you look at the amount of people that these two products alone are going to put to work, it's going to be phenomenal. And we're certainly going to put a dent in this huge recession that we've been in here for the last couple of years. And it looks like it's going to continue unless they do something like legalize cannabis here pretty quick. Hopefully the California Proposition 19 and several of the other states that have marijuana on the agendas, hopefully these will pass, and it looks like they're going to. And this will become a trend, hopefully, with the rest of the states. The the paper and the plywood, those are just a few of the materials that we're going to see. The textile industry itself is going to take a complete sweep. Although since hemp started becoming fashionable here in the last couple of years, the amount of hemp being grown and that being shipped in has been a rather small amount compared to the flax linen that's been being brought in that produces a lot of the clothing. But once people start growing hemp and the fibers are available and they're going to be cheap, then you're going to see a shift in the use of flax and these types of materials, and there's going to be a shift in the direction of using hemp fibers to produce these clothing. And so you won't really have a lot of loss of jobs in these industries. They're just going to replace the material that makes the products. And the fact that hemp is stronger, it's more durable, it'll be cheaper to produce. This will make the jobs actually more secure because you'll have more part of the population being able to afford these goods. And so this is going to be a win-win. Another big important product that's going to come out of the legalizing cannabis in the hemp industry is hemp for fuel. Right now, the United States, we import over 2 or 3 million barrels of oil a day just to satisfy our gasoline consumption in this country. And once we legalize the cannabis plant and make hemp production mainstay in this society, you're going to see a complete shift from gasoline to hemp fuel because it's cheap to make. And it's something that's very renewable. It doesn't take thousands of years of staying in the ground under high pressure and temperature to form oil. This is something that we'll be able to grow, in some cases, 2 crops a year. And in a very small area, we can replace the amount of fuel that this country consumes on a given day. And of course, the jobs that this is going to open up is going to be phenomenal, not only in the production of the hemp and the processing and making the fuel, but all of the different stations and the construction that's going to go on to accommodate these types of businesses that are going to be selling these products. So when you look at the economic boon that this is going to happen, this is something this country needs desperately right now. And the food products, well, I mean, we haven't begun to even discuss the food products. The hemp seeds themselves are very nutritious. They can be incorporated in quite a bit of feed, not only for humans, but for animals also. At one time, the hemp seed was the mainstay of the wild birds in the wild. All of your canaries, all the songbirds, this was their main food. And when hemp production ceased in this country, they took quite a bit of a beating back because their main food that they were used to eating was completely cut off from them. So hopefully we'll see a rise in the bird populations that were certainly thwarted back in the period when the hemp industry was outlawed in this country. And from a human food standpoint, it's very nutritious. They have a lot of nutrients in the food itself and the seed that will be produced, and it'll cross over many lines and many different types of food. The hemp oil itself is used in many of the foods that are produced today, and it's also used in manufacturing and a lot of the cosmetics and things that women buy to put on their face to make themselves look pretty. So once you have a legal industry, then these materials become cheaper. Right now, even the marijuana market in the United States, we're talking about a black market pricing that is just going to fall off the charts. I had some interesting comments about my last episode, and we talked about the price structure, how it was going to drop. And one of the viewers, and I thank everybody for their comments, but one of the viewers thought that the cannabis should stay at around $100 an ounce. And he just thought it was going to be hard for the growers to let go of their product at $8 or $10 an ounce. But when you legalize this plant and when you make it available for people to be able to grow without repercussion of being arrested and all, then there's going to be quite a bit of it on the market, and this is going to force the price down. But when you force the price down, what you do, you bring about more sales, and this is what's going to happen. It's not going to be a detriment to anybody that's growing and selling now. And certainly the fact that if you can grow and produce it and not have to worry about going to jail over it, then you can just plant more plants, and economically you'll make up in the long run way more than you would on trying to get this high dollar, at least $20 a gram price that currently is ridiculous, I think, because most of these varieties that are the high dollar strains, these are just Asian varieties of cannabis that range anywhere from 15 to 25% THC. And the beauty of having one that has a stronger THC content like this is that it's less that a person has to smoke to get the effects from it. When you look at the Mexican cannabis that comes across the border now, it can range anywhere from about around 1 to 4% THC. Well, the typical joint that most people roll up to smoke, when you're smoking the cannabis from Mexico, pretty much one or two people sitting down smoking could smoke a whole joint and pretty much have to get the full effects from it. Whereas with these Asian varieties that have a higher THC content, you'll be smoking a lot less, and therefore the product will go further. The price, though, will not be reflective of a black market pricing, and that's the problem today. And a lot of growers seem to think that this is going to be detrimental to them, but they don't seem to realize that, you can sell one fish for $50 or you can sell 100 fish for $1 each. And if you sell the 100 for $1 each, you make more than the one fish for 50. And this is what you're going to be looking at. The people will be able to buy more and more of these products, because as more people generate them and the abundance becomes greater, then the price structure will certainly come down. And this will open up an entire avenue of research, not only from a medicinal standpoint, but for other types of foods and other types of products that we have yet to discover from this plant. It's one of the most versatile plants on the planet. Most plants that we see in this world we live in are pretty much unifunctional. At best, they might have one or two functions, but the cannabis plant is unique in the fact not only that the plant has separate sexes on individual plants, but the amount of products that can be generated from it. And this is highly unusual in nature, that you find plants that are so multifunctional, and then to find one that that goes from everything from the smoke to the products to the food to raw materials that you can produce other materials with and all. It's just a win-win. And so I don't really think that anybody's going to be a loser once we legalize cannabis, except, like I said, law enforcement and the prison systems, and probably the lawyers and judges. They'll see a little bit of less activity because they won't be sending 1.5 million people to jail every year like they've been doing just for an herb, basically an herb that grows, it's one of the native plants of society around the world. They want to try to make it sound like somebody invented marijuana, but it's just not the case. It just happens to be one of the many plants, flowering plants that live and grow on this planet. And fortunately, this is one that is of great benefit to society. It's not this evil that they've tried to make it be. And the only reason that we've had this bastardizing of this plant is so that law enforcement, organizations like the Drug Enforcement Agency, Homeland Security, these types of things, they use this to their advantage to make money and to pretty much override this thumb-down control over society. And this is just wrong. A person is not a criminal just because they choose to use this herb. In fact, most of the people who use cannabis actually are smarter than the people who choose the alcohol route. And alcohol and cigarettes themselves are responsible for around 500,000 deaths a year in this country. And when you look at the fact that nobody's ever died from a cannabis overdose or even had a hospital emergency room visit, it gives a pretty good track record for the people choosing to use this herb. And I believe that this is the way to go. I mean, we know that cigarettes and alcohol are deadly, and it just doesn't make sense that somebody would adopt these into their normal lifestyle, knowing that the end result is they're going to be putting them in a casket earlier than their time would have been if they hadn't have been using these. We don't see this from cannabis. It's not an abusive type of chemical like alcohol and cigarettes. It certainly is popular. It's going to be very useful with people, and there's certainly going to be a lot of people wanting to use it, but it's not going to be a public threat.